Hey guys, welcome back. Another podcast here. I'm gonna get into it quickly, only because on my end I'm a little bit limited with time this morning. So this is a question that I got from a library member. Our premium library gives you direct access to me. I'm embarrassed to say I missed this one, so I'm gonna be sending Curtis a message here, but I wanted to respond to it, and I decided it's a long one. It's a long question, so easier for me to do it as a podcast, and probably better. There's value in this, I think, for everybody. As really most of the questions that I get, there's probably value in it. It's just not possible to turn them all into podcasts. But I'm going to get into it quick here. It says, question: I have a 3-year-old golden retriever that I primarily train as a gun dog. I'm having 3 major issues. One is she blinks on a lot of retrieves. That's the primary issue. She does victory laps. That's a secondary issue. And I regrettably have developed a brat. I found your content after having troubles with Millie when she was 7 months old. I've since listened to hundreds of hours of podcasts and videos. I love your approach and have made a lot of progress. I'm still having retrieving issues. I can't find the right balance between solving blinking and victory laps. The blinking comes and goes, but I think it's my primary issue. I believe I soured my dog when making retrieving not fun when she was young. She now retrieves on her own terms. Sometimes she loves it, sometimes not so much. The blinking doesn't seem to matter on location, object, or setup. Sometimes she flips a switch and gets all excited, but then when the victory laps happen. We've done a lot of hold conditioning. I recently re-listened to a lot of your earlier content, and I'm not even sure if I should be doing that. Isn't hold conditioning for when you have a reliable pickup? I've been doing 3 to 10 minutes of a day of hold conditioning with various objects 5 days a week for 2 months. It's helped some with victory laps. I'm confused with what I should be doing, because if she blinks, I either quit, end it on a loss, or I don't know how to make a correction. If I get her all jacked up and overexcited, she picks up, which is a win, but does the victory lap. Some days she's willing to make nice retrieves, others not so much. I have a bunch of problems linking things. I've been at it for over 2 years and have tried many things. Many days we don't retrieve, and when we do it, we only do 2 to 5 retrieves. It's been an uphill battle because I did so much wrong in shaping the retrieve before I found your content. We've made a lot of progress indoors, and I'd say her retrieving indoors is now very good. I don't know how to link it to the outdoors. Sometimes I go near baseball fields, fences, or paths of cut grass. Sometimes I put her on a lead, other times I don't. I got her on live birds earlier than you'd recommend before I found your content. She loves retrieving wild birds, and there's no issue blinking on those. Delivery is not ideal, but reality is we don't get a regular dose of live birds because I mostly duck hunt in the fall. I've tried a lot for a while now. In the past, I tried not retrieving for about a month. Of late, as a last resort, I started working in food. During feeding time, I started doing retrieves outside, and she's almost flawless. This led me to some high-value food, steak, in the field, and it works. Of course, when I try to wean her off the food, the success goes away. She's shown me that she knows how to do it, so I think I have a brat on my hands. I don't have a way to attach a video, but if I took a short one and it helps, it's something I could send over. On a brighter note, her obedience is very good, and I owe you a lot of that to you. Thanks for all your content. It really made a difference. Okay. Now, there's just so much here. And I think, I want to break it down, but I also think that that's part of the problem. So we'll break it down as best I can. But I think right off the bat, part of the fix is going to be you're trying to juggle like a lot of balls, and you're not good at juggling yet. So the easiest, most broad, general recommendation to this is you got to juggle less balls and get really good. Don't do more, do less better. If you've listened in the last year, you'll hear that one become a broken record, because I just think it It just makes so much sense. You don't need to do everything just because she's 3 years old. I would love to be doing everything by the time they're 3 years old. I think 3 years old is a good target. Get stuff in place by the time they're three or four. And if you do that, like that's what I'm doing with my setter right now. I got a lot of missing pieces to the big picture, to the full puzzle. But the difference between you and I right now with that setter of mine who's 2.5, so not far off of your 3-year-old, the difference I think is, in simple terms, I've got the first 2.5 years pretty good. I just don't have year 3 and 4 because she's 2.5. You've got a 3-year-old dog that you've got, sounds like some stuff of the first year you've got pretty good and some stuff you're missing. And then you're into year 2 and you've got some stuff from what I would say should be a quote unquote year 2 type thing. And then you're missing some stuff from year 2. And now you're into year 3 and you got some stuff that maybe is year 3 and a bunch of stuff that's missing from year 3. And you're wanting year 3 or 4 results. Well, you don't have all the pieces. So you can't put the puzzle together if you're missing all the pieces. The tricky part about this whole dog thing is it's hard to put together some of the pieces if you don't have pieces of the pieces. So are you following me with this? Like, you're just missing stuff. And at 3 years old, I think what a lot of people do is and it doesn't matter about the age, but I'm just using year 3 because it's 3, because your dog is 3. For a lot of people, they can't get past the idea of realizing and the reality of how old their dog is. Because they're 3, you assume they should act like they're 3. They should be doing the stuff that they're 3. And most people's reality, or what they're thinking is reality, what their expectations are, is not only doing stuff that a 3-year-old should do, but doing stuff that a 3-year-old really well-trained dog should do. I got news for you. If you're not that good of a trainer and you don't have that much experience, and you don't have a dog the dog is a part of the equation too. If your dog's genetics don't allow it to be at that same spot by that same time as some that you're making comparisons to, you're only going to be disappointed in life. And so I think part of that comes with experience. You just got to see a bunch of them. You got to realize that I can't just tell you that because it won't register, but I'm going to say it anyway. But for me, I get it because there are certain dogs that, especially because like these types of questions and the library type stuff reminds me a lot of the workshops, because when the workshops happen, and we just had one not too long ago, when the workshops happen, I get a reality check. I get to see the real world again outside of my little bubble. And my little bubble is pretty controlled. It's pretty dialed in. I've got 2 puppies right now that are about 11 weeks old, I think. They're going on 11 weeks old. I've got one that's 14 months old. I call those are the puppies. And then I got Makina, and she's kind of still a puppy too. She's 2.5 years old. But so my little world of puppies, I look at and I question it the same way that most of you guys do, as far as, boy, am I on track? Am I doing the right stuff? Are we getting the right stuff done? Are we doing it in a timely manner? Why aren't we? If I don't feel like we are, why aren't we? Where should we be going? When do I want to try to get there? Like, I'm asking the exact same questions. It's just I have such a confidence in the system. I have such a confidence in the flow of it. I have such a confidence. I've got these little puppies today that I follow a guy, and this is just different personality. This is just different styles and techniques and personalities. And I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but I follow a guy over in England. I had him on this podcast. His name's Ben Randall. Has Beggar Bush Kennels, and he's got a thing called Gundog app. I would recommend it. I think he wrote a book recently. I have not read it, but my buddy has it and really speaks highly of it. And it's a guy that I know is a really good trainer, and I think really highly of him. So he's really big on this book that he put out. So I might end up getting that as well. But I would recommend it because I think there's a ton of value in what Ben Randall is putting out there. And he's got an incredible following of people that, I'm going to say, drink the Kool-Aid. And I don't say it in a negative way, because there's a lot of places that put Kool-Aid out with the intentions of hoping that folks will drink it. It's a cultural thing. It's a brand building thing. It's very much a business thing. And I get it. And I think indirectly everybody does it. I do it too, probably. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I love the idea of it, because I think it becomes blinders for people. I think it creates people to not have a open mind and a willingness to look at stuff outside. Now it's a different rabbit hole, but I'm going to go back to Ben Randall's stuff. So one of the things that I think I see with him, and I was influenced by it recently, was I watched him with a very young puppy. I tried to find it again. I couldn't find it, but he had a very young puppy, 6 weeks old, I think is what the post said. And it was like kind of steadied up, and there was other dogs, larger dogs, more mature dogs sitting, and the little puppy was running through the dogs and making retrieves and turning around and coming back and delivering and holding, and just beautifully. I think it might have been a little Labrador, but it could have been a Spaniel, but I'm pretty sure it was a Labrador. And I thought, at the time, I had 6-week-old puppies. I had a whole litter of them exactly at that moment when I watched that video. And I thought, holy shit, look at what he's doing with this 6-week-old puppy. And I'm over here going, my puppies are all living together in their whelping box yet. I'm feeling pretty good about things, because I'm getting them outside, and they are kind of housebroken. I'm going to call it roughly, but real loosely, but they're getting in and out of the house. They're all clean. They're all clean in their pens. I'm celebrating the idea that they don't poop and pee on each other. And he's got his dog running little lines through distracting situations in an open yard area, making retrieves and delivering to hand. And I'm going, if I watched that and didn't have the experience that I have, because I'm not panicked by that at all, because I look at it and I go, I think my 6-week-old puppies that are sleeping through the night as a group and going out and doing their business and wrestling around and playing with each other and creating kind of bold attitudes and confident young pups and climbing stairs and doing some very elementary functional things. I feel really good about where I'm at with it. Now, that's because I've of enough experience where if I didn't have that and I just got a puppy and it wasn't, well, I wouldn't even have it at 6 weeks old yet. But let's say I was getting a puppy from a breeder and I got it at 8 weeks old, and I watched that video and I saw what he's doing with his dog at 6 weeks old, I'd think, holy cow, am I behind? And I'd maybe feel some pressure to try to catch up to that, because that's what I should be doing. Now, here's the difference in style that I think is there. Ben has an incredible program, and I think it works really well. And I think what happens is like, we don't see it all. You can't on social media. And even if you purchase the app, you don't see it all. You do see the best stuff. And so my point with this is like, I don't feel like I have to get the puppy doing that quite so young. Because it's this idea of, I'm trying to get to a finish line, if there even is a finish line. Like, maybe there really isn't the finish line, but I'm trying to get to the certain goals. And I don't think that so now these puppies are about 11 weeks old. And just last week, I started really kind of asking them to sit for me. Ben's got his dogs doing it a lot earlier than I do. Now, I just started doing it because I felt like they were ready. I just felt like prior to that, I used feeding times, and he's big on feeding time stuff, and I like that because I just think it's an easy way for us to be efficient, gain value out of time that otherwise would be dead time or non-productive time in training, and potentially like even go backwards if you use feeding the wrong way. So I started using feeding times to do some little sit work and a little bit of steadiness work. I think he does it a lot earlier than I do. And so, is it right or is it wrong? Well, it's only wrong. The way I'm doing it is only wrong if I don't get to where I want to be as far as a goal. And the way I avoid that is I'm very careful, and I think he is as well, to not try to create bad habits. Like forming good habits, he probably is a little more aggressive than I am from a timeline standpoint. I've become more lax on that. And why I think his system works so well, especially for newer people, less experienced trainers, is because his system really makes people think about it from the start, very early on. And so I look at it and I go, well, I'm not necessarily proactively doing the things that he's doing or saying folks should do, but I'm not going the other way either. I'm not letting bad habits start. And I also recognize there is a window of time that's so valuable as far as shaping good behavior. So at 11 weeks, I got puppies that in a session or two caught on to this really well. They're very steady right now for their food. I'm lining them out to their food. I'm doing the same things Ben does. It's just I'm doing a few weeks later. And that's just personal. That's just my personal way of doing it. It's not right or wrong. The reason I bring that up is because I think in this situation with Curtis and his dog, he didn't have any of it. When it came to the retrieve. Like the retrieve to me is maybe more important right now than getting my dogs to sit. Now, Curtis said his obedience is really good, which is good. It's just the retrieving stuff. Why I want to make this such a clear point of this is because this is something that I don't think, when it comes to the retrieving part, shaping good behaviors with the retrieve. The easy answer, Curtis, is yes, I think hold conditioning will help you. I think it will fix this. I think I could fix this dog pretty easily with a good, solid hold conditioning. It shouldn't take very long. It shouldn't take years, like it sounds like you've been working on. It shouldn't take months at a time of specific shots in the dark. Like I think you're throwing a lot of darts out there, hoping to hit something. So we'll get into that in a second. But I think from the beginning, this is where I would say I'm more Ben Randall-like. I would say that I do believe from the and it doesn't mean 6 weeks, but it means whenever it starts. Because some dogs, two of these puppies that I have right now, one of them did not seem nearly as apt to start picking stuff up and carrying it around as the other. The one did it really, really naturally, and I look at that. I find that to be a very valuable trait. I want the dog that does that. This one, there was a bit of a difference. One of them carried earlier than the other. So when that one decided to carry, I didn't panic and try to make the other one carry. I let that one develop and it only took a few days, and then all of a sudden it started to do it too, which isn't that much time difference. But when they did, I was so particular about making sure that it was always good. No bad habits formed, no running off, no laying down and chewing, no dropping. It was bring it back to me. And it was so natural, and it was just tapping into instincts in them. So I think you realize that didn't happen with this dog. And it's probably, and you said it, you didn't start following us until later. So it's understandable. So my answer to all of these problems of yours, because I'm not going to reread them and I'm not going to break them down again, but what I'm going to say is start over. 3 years old is not that old. You have to start over, and you have to start with something at the bottom of the pyramid to start building up off of. And so I had this conversation recently with a professional trainer that's a kennel guy that he has a kennel, and he called me and he was really struggling with a dog about retrieving stuff. And it was a lot of things, partly with the owner of the dog, partly with the attitude, partly with the approaches he had taken. He was really on the fence of trying to like go force training with it, and he's not a force trainer. And I think he was looking to me to maybe give him some affirmation at the idea of, yeah, maybe you should do that. And I didn't, because I didn't think that was the right answer. And what I had a really hard time, I think, convincing him in the moment was start over. Because I think he looked at it, and I know why he looked at it, and it makes sense, is he had the pressure of time. The guy was paying him based on time, and he said, I just don't know that the guy's willing to spend that much more money to try to reverse this dog. And the dog was a year or two old. And I said, well, then I can't help that. That's why that's not my business model. But the way I would fix it, and maybe it's not the way you can fix it because of the financial structure that's involved, but I don't give a shit about that. I just want to know, how can I fix the dog? How can I reverse the dog? And because of what had been put into it, and he put his hand up, and the guy who owns the dog put their hand, it was at their fault. It wasn't the dog's fault. It was at the person's fault, which, Curtis, I'm not pointing fingers, but a lot of this is your fault. You know that. That's okay. We admit that. We move on from it. It's starting over. And it's treating the dog like a puppy from a perspective of progression. You don't have to treat it like a puppy necessarily in all facets, like literally, because he's not a puppy anymore. He's capable. That's the beauty of it is he's going to go through stuff faster. He's smarter, more mature, more capable. But I think you have to break it down. So a lot of people talk about breaking dogs. About the only time I want to break a dog is when I break it down to start simple. I don't break the dog. I break down the process of what I'm trying to do with it. Make it simple and go back to the beginning. And if it means because you got a clusterfuck going on. You got shit going on every direction. Sometimes it's good in the house. Sometimes I go to a baseball field. Sometimes I do this. Sometimes I do that. I did this for 3 months. I did that for... No, that is just a shotgun approach and crossing our fingers and hoping things work out. Let's get organized. Start in the beginning. I start with my puppies normally in the hallway. You might have to start there. These puppies that I'm training right now, I started them in the kitchen. It's not the hallway. It's usually where I go from the hallway too. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little more open. These dogs were good enough to that's where they started, and they did good. Now they're 11 weeks old. And I bet you I've made, with both of them, about equal retrieves. I would say they've made less than 10, maybe 10 to 15 retrieves over the course of 2 or 3 sessions. And then I did the other day bring them down to my shop because they've done super well with it. I have not had an issue. So I brought them down to the shop, and I always did that separate. I always separated the dogs and trained them individually. The other day I was down in the shop, big open empty shop. I had a puppy dummy there, and I decided, and actually it was a small, so it had the throw rope. The puppy dummy, I'm not using the throw ropes because the puppy dummy is what makes that delivery right. It makes them hold it right, hold the dummy right. So in the shop I had a small dummy with a throw rope, and I had both puppies and I had Makina. So I thought, well, I'm just gonna try it. I crouched down, I got down on my knees, I grabbed the dummy, I threw it quite a ways out there. The red-collared puppy, Bo, ran right out, picked it up by the body of the dummy, and brought it back to me beautiful. Okay, so I held on to him. I threw it out for the green one, Luke. Luke ran out, blinked on it, didn't pick it up. He tried, and it was a little heavy for him, I think. And because it was a little heavier, because it's weighted, it's a weighted dummy versus a non-weighted dummy. Remember, he's only picked up 10 to 15 of these things in his life. This one was a little heavier, and that was enough to throw him off, and he came running back to me. And so I just, okay. I sent Luke. Luke picked it up, brought it back. I held on to, Bo. I sent Bo. Bo ran out, picked it up, brought it back. I held on to Luke. I just kind of put my arm around him. So I tried it again with Luke. Got him a little excited. I didn't throw it quite as far. I let him break on it. I did not steady him up at all. I just let him chase it. I wanted that enthusiasm to be there. He ran out to it. He grabbed it. He picked it up, and he grabbed it by the rope, and he dragged it back to me. And I thought, you know what? That's why I don't use the rope, because I don't want to form the habit. But I looked at it and I went, but we got something out of it. He picked it up and brought it back to me. So I also had a puppy dummy there, no rope. I reached up, I grabbed the puppy dummy, I threw it for him, no weight. Luke runs out, picks it up perfect, brings it back to me. That's it. I was done. That session took me about 3 minutes. It is very strategically put in my memory bank. We went from the kitchen. Now, that doesn't mean that now we just open it up and go out into the yard, because that won't work. They'll run off. They'll chase each other. Just because I retrieved with 2 of them because I had to, and I was in that situation. Now I'll go. So I tested the waters a little bit. I saw what they had, And now I'm going to go back and go, we're not quite ready to do that because that was a little bit loose and a little uncontrolled, but we're going to realize, boy, we kind of pecked at it a little bit. So let's go back. Let's firm some stuff up. Let's do things a little more consistency with it, a little more frequency with it. Not necessarily retrieve every day. I'll still probably retrieve with them once or twice a week. But I'm going to keep cataloging and putting into the Rolodex the information. Some people actually do write it down. I don't. I put it in my mind, but I'm going to start to put the pieces together with these puppies, and then I'll add a little bit more, try a little bit more until they show me that they can or can't do it, and then probably go back a little bit, shore things up, get it really, really good, get it to the point that it's so good, I go, okay, we're going to try something new. We try it again. Wheels come off a little bit. We go back. We're a little bit, now go back, shore it back up again. It's just this feathering back and forth. But you need to do that with this dog. The problem is you're overwhelmed with all the tries, all the attempts, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. I saw him do this, I saw him do that. You said it yourself. You got hours, hundreds of hours of watching our videos and stuff. Start organizing your stuff. That's my next challenge to you is don't just throw darts and hope. Put together a plan. Now you're taking yourself to a whole new level of just mimicking and replicating and watching and copying to grabbing all of that information. You went to the library, literally. You got all the information. If you got to take notes, take notes. If you got to put it in your mind, put it in your mind. You got to know how you study best. Then take it back and organize the information and start drawing your plan up with the understanding that when you draw your plan up, it's based on education you just got from the library. So it's not just poke and hope. It's kind of calculated. Then take into consideration, you're very new to this. And you're going to, whatever your initial plan is, it won't be right. But it'll be better than just poke and hope. It'll be better than just pivot and try something different. Pivot and try something different because you're going to get dizzy doing that. It's going to be, there's the path. Here's what I'll try. And if it doesn't quite work, some of it will because you're not that dumb. I mean, let's be honest. You've picked up a lot. Your obedience is really good. If your obedience is really good, this should be easier because it's more natural. Obedience is not natural for the dog. But whatever you did to get the obedience good, you need to kind of figure out how to make that plan for the retrieving. And the problem is you've said it yourself. You've just got so many skeletons in that closet right now that you got to go sort out. And I say don't sort it out starting at the top. It'll be a mess. Sort it out from the bottom up and work your way up. So, Curtis, I'm going to send you a message and let you know that this podcast is out there. I'm going to get it to Ben and he'll get it live. I hope it helps you and I hope it helps other people. To me, it was a great example of a question that is stuff I've answered to a lot of people indirectly, and also directly, I suppose, but on a really small scale. And this is one that I hope a lot of people hear it. And I hope those that hear it, get something, because there's more than just one answer. There's more than just one little nugget of information in there. And my hope is that it's just like a workshop weekend. I always tell people you can't go back and apply everything you just got jammed down your throat over the last 3 days. You have to go back and you have to do one thing at a time. And that's where you'll listen to this podcast, Curtis, once, try to make your path, then come back and listen to it next week. And then come back and listen to it the following week. Listen to it as often as you need to. But each time you listen to it, you're going to get something new out of it. And light bulbs will come on when you listen to it because you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's what that meant. Because you won't realize what it meant the first time you listen to it until you actually do it. And then you won't realize it because it has been a while since you heard it on the podcast. The second time you listen to it, you'll start to go, that's when that happened. That's when this happened. So I wish you luck with it. Keep me posted. Thanks for being a member of the library. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. If you would do me a favor and share it to folks that you think it might be helpful with, I'd really appreciate it. That's the best way for us to grow it. Until the next one, you guys, best of luck. Make the most of these next few months, because these are really great opportunities of time, regardless of the age of your dog. Get something. I'm so excited about this summer with these puppies, because they're not going to hunt this fall. But I love the opportunity in the morning with cool mornings. Because it's the heat. People complain about the heat. I love the heat because it shuts us down. It gives me time to do my other job, which is our business, DogBone and Hodag. But training the dogs for me is like, get up early and get that done. But I only got a short window of time, but the weather's nice to do it. So it forces me to do it. Well, hell, I'm jumping out of bed to do it. In the evening, if I can stand the mosquitoes, get a little bit of work in when that sun gets down below the trees, because now I get that much more focus out of their minds, because they're able to be just a touch cooler. And that you'll start to really recognize the when and where you can maximize the amount of time you're spending with the dogs. And you'll also realize it just doesn't take that much, as long as the quality of the time is good. Don't do more, do less better. That's what you need to do. So, all right, guys, good luck. Keep me posted on your stuff.